GGG is ruining the game, and melee isn't viable. But wait, what is that in the distance? Is it a well-crafted weapon for 10 Exalts that can be easily made to be 900 plus, 1200 plus DPS? The first thing you have to decide is what base are you going to craft on? What build are you? What ascendancy are you? There's a lot of questions you need to ask, and you kind of just need to pick from there. In our case, we're going to be crafting on a Lion Sword base. I'm planning to play Slayer to start out the league, and that means we need a low base crit but high base damage and attack speed sword, and this is the best one, so we're going to pick it. If you are running a crit build, you can do the exact same craft on a crit-based weapon, just it's not really ideal for Slayers or for anyone going Resolute technique. We're going to be doing this on an item level 80 Warlord weapon. You can do this craft on any axe or mace or sword in the game, however we're choosing swords because I find them to be the most fun. The first thing you're going to want to do is use Perfect Fossils. Perfect Fossils gives your weapon up to 30% quality, and it's a lot of extra damage, and don't get lazy, you should do this if you're going to do this. Then, Scour. If you did everything right, you should end up with a 30% quality Warlord Lion Sword that is great, and it's going to be your baby, and it's going to be amazing. And now, on to crafting the actual weapon. At this point, we're going to go unedited because I want to show you guys how to make the video in one long spree without editing out a bunch of stuff that you probably want to see in case something goes wrong or if we find something interesting. How we're going to be targeting that Warlord mod is that we need one prefix, one suffix, and 4 other open affixes on a rare. That means you are going to have to be annulling a few things, so I would recommend you run Harbingers, but besides that, that's the only luck to the build. Everything else is deterministic. So, how are we going to do this? We're going to go over to Essences. We're going to be crafting with Essences of Contempt. Ideally the top tier, but second tier works as well. You definitely want the top tier if you're going to be doing something like this though. In my opinion, if you're spending 10 Exalts on a sword, you generally want to spend a little more for the highest tier of essence. That's pretty important. So let's shoot for tier 1 attack speed. Tier 1 attack speed is the best suffix for what we could want here. It takes an average of 40 essences in order to get it. That is extremely common for one mod we're looking for. And there we go. After 7 essences, we have accomplished T1 attack speed. Ain't that a beaut? Now, what are we going to do with it? We're going to annul. You're not going to be locking any prefixes or suffixes or anything like that when you annul. It's just not worth it. Again, it's only 40 essences to even get the attack speed, so you might as well just buy more essences if you need it rather than wasting multiple exalts on the craft. So let's annul. In that case, we got unlucky. We lost the flat fizz, right? So let's keep going. And you may be thinking, why am I not showing off like manually doing it in the base mod pool? Well, I want to show you what's really like. You know, if you're going to be doing this, that's percentage flat. If you want to be doing this in the real league, you need to know what it feels like to start over. You can't just be like, oh, I'll just, you know, manually put it on like tier 1 attack speed, boom. It kind of ruins the practice of it. You know, it feels like you should be doing something a little more substantial with it, and I want to show that this method really does work well, especially in a league that's probably going to be melee based. So that's our actual Warlord mod we're going to be shooting for, just to show you how uncommon it actually is. So we're going to be aiming for that. Again, we're shooting for attack speed here again. Hopefully we get it soon. We average 1 in 40 to get it. That's tier 3, and we got it on the 8th one, so we're a little ahead of the game in terms of how often we get it. I'm trying not to roll over too fast because there is a chance you get like tier 1% fizz and you can't keep rolling over that. I would just buy a new weapon. That's tier 8 attack speed. Tier 1 attack speed. Look at that. 47 essences, baby. Amazing. So with 47 essences, we have 2 tier 1 attack speed rolls. We are now going to annul again. We hit 1. We lost the attack speed. Well, ha. Ain't that a... All right, tier 2 attack speed. Now, you may be disheartened, but remember, it's not that difficult to just roll it again, right? It's not that bad. It feels bad, but you know what? It's for the greater good. People talk about deterministic crafting. This is deterministic crafting. The only thing stopping you is the amount of currency you're willing to spend. At this point, we've used 62 essences, which costs like I'm gonna say 2/3 of an Exalt. So it's not like it's like, you know, a devastating amount of essences you've lost so far, but it still feels pretty bad, and I get it. Tier 3 attack speed. If you're wondering if it's worth settling for Tier 2, which is twice as common, you'll get it 1 in every 20 essences versus 1 in every 40. I would not recommend it unless you are truly short on money. I would maybe consider continuing to roll. If you're okay with Tier 2 attack speed, you might as well be okay with like a Tier 2 essence instead. I just like making the weapons the best they can be, and that's just how I enjoy the game. That's Tier 2 attack speed again. Again, the only thing we're focusing on is either an incredible random roll or Tier 1 attack speed. Either one is fine with us. Now, for those of you who paid attention, oh, there's my attack speed. So we have 89 essences. That's 3 Tier 1 attack speeds. Let's annul. Hit it. That's percent fizz too. Okay, we hit the fizz, that's fine. So we have a 1 in 3 shot of doing that. Now, if you wanted to guarantee this, and I would not recommend this, but if you are disheartened by everything you see so far, what you can do is you can do cannot roll attack modifiers and then annul. And you are guaranteed to annul either the mod or the item, or the thing. It's not worth, or the whatever affix you want to get rid of. I don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's worth spending a whole Exalt on that, because you saw we spent less than one Exalt to even get the Tier 1 attack speed. We got it multiple times, and we haven't even spent 1 Exalt worth of essences. I don't think it's worth it, but if you're disheartened by it and you just want to get it done, that's one way of doing it. Now, we have our base item. Now, believe it or not, every step for the remainder of this is absolutely deterministic. So here's what we're going to do. Can have up to 3 crafted modifiers. Prefixes cannot be changed. Suffixes cannot be changed, which is a prefix. Now, that is expensive. That's where the price of this comes from. You just spent 6 Exalts worth of crafting on there. What are we guaranteeing? Why are we doing this? Well, remember, we had a mod we were target crafting, right? The Warlord. That's why we're using a Warlord sword. There's one Warlord mod that is speed-based, that is a prefix, and it's the only prefix. So if we lock every other affix on here, all 3 suffixes are used, both prefixes are used, we have 1 open prefix, and we're going to reforge as speed. Reforge being, you know, get a new modifier guaranteed of that, at least 1. We now have percent fizz and attack speed. Now, we just rolled a Tier 5, which is the worst roll. Tier 5 is totally acceptable. Now, if you want to push it to like 1200 plus damage sword, which is totally possible with this method, you need to do a lot of luck. You need to get a lot of luck. It's a 45% chance-ish that you get Tier 5 Warlord, which sort of sucks. There's also a 45% chance you get Tier 4 through 2, and I think 5% chance you get a Tier 1. Tier 1 is ideal, but the only difference between these is just the percent fizz you get on the left. The attack speed actually always stays the same. It's 3 to 4%. So let's say, oh, we got Tier 5 again. This is kind of just showing you the luck part of it. This is Tier 4, Tier 5, just so you know what to expect. Tier 4, Tier 5, Tier 4, Tier 3, Tier 5, Tier 5. We're actually getting unlucky. This is another Tier 5, Tier 3, Tier 1. So there you go. It's not like this impossible thing you're never going to see. It's just unlikely. A Tier 1% roll, by the way, will push the sword up to 1200-ish DPS. 1200. You heard me right. But you're not going to have crit on it. So if you, this is either a Resolute Technique sword or it's a Slayer sword that can boost that up to 8% crit. If you are wanting to craft the critical strike chance on this sword, you should use another sword. This is just the highest base damage without crit. In our case, we're not going to do Tier 1. We're actually going to shoot for like Tier 5. There we go. I'm going to show you guys what is likely to happen Tier 5. You could do the exact same thing when you have a Tier 1 stat. I'm just showing you the realistic result you're probably going to get with this. Now, what do we do for the remainder of this? Well, if we go back to our suffixes, we're going to erase our suffixes and then craft up to 3 crafted modifiers again. Now, you may notice we kind of have low rolls here, right? We have 32 minimum when the lowest is 31, 69 over 65, 25% under 34. That's a huge damage loss, right? You want to divine this. Don't do it yet. I'm going to save you guys a lot of money. So we have 2 crafts here, 1 prefix, 1 suffix we can get away with. What do we craft? Well, obviously, percent fizz. Percent fizz goes up to 129, minimum 100. It is necessary. And yes, it is an expensive craft. So in this case, we absolutely low rolled it. 100 out of 129. Ouch. Go to suffixes. Now, at this point, if you are a crit build and you're doing this exact craft on a crit weapon, which will be the same process up until this point, you're going to want plus strength and intelligence, also percentage increased crit chance, which brings it up to like 25% increased crit, which is usually good enough for a lot of builds. We are not a crit-based weapon. We are either Resolute Technique or Slayer. So we are going to want increased attack speed while near a rare or unique enemy. That would give you 22% increased local attack speed. That means between Warlord, between our tier 1 attack speed, and between the crafted attack speed, we have about 51 to % increased attack speed, which is insane. This means your attack speed against bosses is going to be around 2.25 base attack speed, which is absolutely insane. And that's where you get your real juice on the weapon. And that's why this is getting you to like 900 fizz DPS. But how do we divine it? Well, that's where Harvest comes in again. The divines are usually pretty common in my experience. I just going to divine all lucky. If you get only prefix or only suffix, just divine accordingly, keeping in mind that you're probably going to need to re-roll your prefix. If you thought about recrafting this, remember this is an Exalt craft, I believe, just 1 Exalt to get it. Don't craft it multiple times, just use your divines, it's fine. So we are going to do this. Hopefully we get lucky. We're shooting for like 800 fizz DPS base. That's good enough. I'm happy with that. 796. So this isn't the highest you could possibly go. You could go a little higher actually, but it's fine enough for our purposes. Now you may be wondering, Gary, you lied to me. This weapon is only 800 DPS. Where's our damage coming from? Well, remember, this mod exists and this program does not account for it. So if we were to say copy it, now, if you equip the sword in POB, you're going to see our base 1.9 attack speed. That was what we wanted, right? That was the on paper attack speed we have. But if we go to POB and we set it as a boss, what happens? It's 2.3 base attack speed. Now, if we actually plug in that attack speed into our sword, our real boss DPS ends up being 963.7 flat fizz physical DPS weapon on a 2-handed base. Damn. All for 10 Exalts too. It's kind of bonkers, right? For those of you who don't understand how much damage can be measured on DPS, keep in mind a Starforge is a 585.6 DPS weapon when perfectly divined. But it doesn't just work for weapons. With an Elder Chest, you can actually target the percent crit and percent life. This one takes a little more luck. You're not guaranteed to get the Elder prefix with percent life. There's a chance you might get hybrid life, but I mean, okay, it's still hybrid life. Like, it's still a really good chest. It's just not an end game chest. It's just a really good one. With hybrid life, you're still pulling off like 150 flat life on your chest with a bunch of base crit and a bunch of other things you want, like spell suppress. Let's go from the very beginning, but this time, instead of a sword, we're going to focus on an axe, and we're going to make it a crit-based axe. And now we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to go to Harvest. We're going to reforge as Speed. What? Oh, it's not a Warlord axe! Now that we're back with a Warlord axe, we're going to do the exact same thing. Reforge, Speed, click, and then you end up with a tier 1. So this is going to be a good opportunity to kind of show you guys what you can do on the high end when it comes to this crafting method. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to be crafting 3 crafted modifiers. We're going to go to prefixes. We're going to craft percentage fizz. Again, not worrying about the rolls yet. And then we're going to go, instead of the attack speed, we're going to go the critical chance with strength and intelligence. This is where your harvest crafting divines come in again. What you're shooting for here is probably with tier 1, probably like 920-ish DPS at minimum. So in this case, I really like my prefixes, and my suffixes are pretty well rolled too. What am I missing here? Oh yeah, our prefixes look pretty low rolled, I see. So it depends on how many divines you want to use. If you have this kind of weapon, you might as well go the extra mile. Oops. There we go, 922 DPS. Mwah, beautiful, right? But you're not done yet. Remember, this is not the full weapon. It is a 922 DPS axe. However, if we were to paste this into POB, what you're gonna find is that your crit is actually 8.7% crit. Combine that with the Elder Chest we just made, and mwah, you're gonna have a 10+% base crit attack crit. It's really good. If we were to go to POB right now and buy a 900 physical DPS axe, how much do you guys think that would cost? Here's another axe we're selling for. It is a 6 base crit axe with 1.56 attack speed, which is the same as ours, and it has a much higher base fizz, 1079. How much do you think this axe is selling for? 60 Exalts. And that's how you swindle somebody in Path of Exile.